Hello and welcome to week 22's weekly Dinosaw. Another 7 interesting, curious and hopefully innovative things that I thought you might like to see this week. So let's crack on. So first one is Amazon have launched Crucible. So this is their first AAA sort of first person shooter game. You may not have heard of Amazon games because they haven't really released a lot. They released quite a novel game for the Grand Tour last year, although it was actually also a bit lame. So, but the novel part of it was they released what you saw in the show that day as a console game that evening. So you could play the crazy thing that you did with a car or whatever. Only a few episodes were actually converted like that, but yeah, it was interesting. Spall forwards a year, so they've released Crucible. So this is fairly standard battle royale type game. So there are 3 game modes, but one is a battle royale, and the other 2 are sort of team modes of various sizes of team, where you have a mission to do. Yeah, so it's interesting. If you look at all the reviews of it, it's okay. It's got some quite tough competition out there. So if you're into Overwatch or back in the day Fortnite, then this is no surprise. This game, it's in an open beta essentially. So it's the first view of it, so you can download it and play it. Reviews from my 16-year-old son are, yeah, it's okay, 4 out of 10. It's a bit irritating to play, not quite got it right yet. So the weapons, you run out of ammo all the time. The weapons, you can get hurt by your own weapons and they overheat all the time. So it's just, it's okay, but it's just frustrating. So, watch this space. It's Amazon. They'll bring a huge amount of audience to their game, and they will improve it over time because they are Amazon. So, so that's that. Electric oil tankers. So this is a group of 7 big industrial giants, including the likes of Mitsubishi. So you've heard of some of them. So electric oil tankers seems like a bit of a daft connection when you've got oil on tap, essentially. But the global commercial shipping world is actually accounting for quite a lot of pollution. So this is a great thing to see. Quite a crude animation, and I wish they'd have sorted out the wind turbines. However, the idea would be is you have local renewables, solar, wind, even wave power, and essentially charges up the huge lithium-ion batteries, and away you go. So we've seen some moves in China from the sort of cruise ship area. But this is really the first time we've seen a concerted effort into the commercial shipping area. So it's only a good thing. So it's not really spoken about, commercial shipping pollution, but it's a big thing. You wait a long time and two come along at once. So this is the innovation in out of home. So we saw the Nationwide Degree show, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and this week it's actually Ocean Outdoor again. They are renowned for big tech-infused screens, so they own some of the biggest digital screens in the country, and they're always sort of popping up with new bits of technology. So they've always got Wi-Fi, they do number plate recognition on some of their sites, etc. So this one is a new partnership they've just announced with Ultraleap. And I guess post-COVID, you don't really want to be touching interactive screens. So this actually goes one step further. So this device, and again, the type of device has been around for a while. I mean, I've had one of these for probably 6 years. So it's been around, but not really commercially available in this sort of package. So what it does is it's an ultrasonic haptic device. So it uses inaudible tiny ultrasonic speakers to focus sound onto your skin. So if you've been into a nightclub and you can feel the speaker moving, you can take that into a micro level. You can actually do exactly the same with tiny inaudible speakers. So you can feel the touch against your skin of the air around you, and they can focus it on a specific shape. So you can feel, for instance, a dial, or you can feel a wall, or you can feel for instance, the tiny bubbles from fizzy drink. So that's one thing, and the second thing is it can actually track your hands in 3D space without touching anything. So so that's kind of cool. So it's a sort of a tactile feedback control device. It'll only be wheeled out for specific campaigns, so it won't be there all the time, but eventually they might. What I've noticed, I'm actually deaf in one ear from, ironically, a rock concert. and ultrasonic sound devices like this do actually interfere with hearing aids. So it's great for creatives to use this, but you just need to be aware of the people with hearing aids. The rise of the influencer house. So I've sort of been aware these have been around for a while, and Big Brother is really what you imagine when you see this. But if you go to influences.com, you'll be able to see there, I think we just added a new house. So these are fully contained, self-contained influencer houses. So they have jacuzzis and pools and nice backdrop and crazy lighting and champagne on tap and managers and Wi-Fi and streaming devices and studios. So they have everything you need to be an influencer. It's just bizarre that they're trapped in their own little vacuous little worlds, which I guess is quite on brand as well. So they, for instance, this company has 3 houses. So there's one which is all about sort of positivity and laughter, another one which is about racial diversity, and another one which is about empowering women. It is a strange view of each one of those, in my opinion. So empowering women is apparently about jacuzzis and champagne and bikinis. So it's playing to its audience, definitely. However, if you didn't know these existed, now you do. So Twitter have been trialing a feature called tweet limiting for a while now, a couple of weeks at least. And what it does is it allows you as the tweeter to limit who can actually reply to your tweet. Now it can either be nobody can reply, or it can be certain people can reply. So at the time when it was launched, there was a lot of sort of conversation, really ironically, about can it be abused? If you're a politician, can you only include people who agree with you, or can you actually just say something and not actually allow any discussion whatsoever? So it turns out there's been some movement on that in America. Some lawyers have waded in and say if the president, for instance, were to do that, then it would be against the First Amendment of free speech for the subjects, should we say. So I remember at the time thinking, oh, this is quite interesting for commercial uses. I wonder what people would do with it. And thankfully, Naughty Dog, who are a games company, have stepped up and given me an example. So this is The Last of Us Part 2, which is the game that is coming out soon for them. Now, unfortunately, they had a bit of a leak a couple of months ago, and some footage got out on the internet, and basically it just sullies everything they ever say. Everybody just posts these kind of spoilers essentially underneath it. So what they did is they invoked the feature on Twitter, and they said, here's the brand new trailer, and there'll be no spoilers underneath it. Thank you very much. So it's quite interesting how they've done that. Twitter did actually launch it to a lot of people with a really sort of snarky tweet. It was quite interesting. It says, reply if you want to be verified. And of course, they turned off replies. So everybody went, oh, that's an interesting feature. So, we're seeing this. It will come to your Twitter feed sometime quite soon. I always try and give myself a little bit of a challenge. And good news, everybody. There's been a new type of quantum particle confirmed. So since the 1970s, it has been proposed that there is a new type or third type of quantum particle. However, it's now been measured and proved. So this is big news, obviously, in all of your lives. Now, why is it important? Well, it's important for quantum computing. So there are things called qubits, which are quantum bits. Essentially, it's how you process the data, or how you can actually decide whether you can do some logic. What normally happens in a quantum computer is you have a 3-dimensional space, you have 2 entangled particles, and how those entangled particles rotate around each other. Essentially, if you do half a loop, you get a -1, and if you do another loop, it's back to the start, you get a 0. So that's equivalent of a 1 and a 0. So it's a logical bit, or it's a quantum bit. So what they've figured out is actually, yeah, that's okay, but it's quite restrictive. If you actually flatten it down into 2D, and you sandwich, I think it's something like gallium arsenide or something like that. So it always comes up gallium arsenide, but essentially if you squash it into 2D, and then it can behave slightly differently. So instead of winding it as a 1 or a 0, it can actually keep its state, and you can sort of, crudely, it's not just a 1 or a 0, it can be many. So, there's big news for quantum particles. If you're interested in the other 2 quantum particles, you've got things like the bosons you might have heard of, so the Higgs boson, and you have fermions. Now, bosons you've heard of, they're things like photons. So these use it every day. It's light, and fermions, by the way, are things like electrons. So you're using these particles every day. So there's now a third one. So yay! If that does come up at a dinner party, you probably need to look at your dinner party list. And finally, that robot dog thing. There's always a good update from that robot dog thing from Boston Dynamics, as is the somersaulting death robot. So this is a new partnership with Rokos, and Rokos are a sort of remote missions planning company. So, for instance, now what you can do is you can get your Spot dog, as they're called, and these are commercially available. They're essentially a robot platform, and the back of them is flat for a reason. You can attach whatever sensors you want onto it. So what you now do is you can set waypoints. It will go and follow them. It will autonomously traverse the landscape and do whatever mission you have set at the end, whether that be looking at the amount of apples or whatever these are on the vines, or it can say how many sheep you've got, or it can round them up, or it can also do things like 3D surveying, and it can also do urban environment, so it can go into places and find out what the deal is. So now it's a web interface, so that you can essentially now have your dog, if you're a farmer, for instance, and you have 20 of these things, get up in the morning, press a button on your iPhone, and all your robot dogs go off and get your sheep. Obviously, if I was these two sheepdog right here, I'd be pretty pissed off right now. However, that's what's latest in Boston Dynamics and Spot the Dog. So with that, we are done. So thank you very much, and I will see you next week.